So I just want to make a quick video about going to visit Teresa Myers next week. If you're following me for that content, this is going to be amazing to hear her point of view about growing up in the conditions that we all saw in this documentary from 54 years ago. So if you're not following my channel for any of the Darlene Chronicles content, or don't even know what that is, I'll give a quick rundown. The Darlene Chronicles was a documentary filmed by Penn State 54 years ago. It was part of a series about rural poverty, but this documentary focused on Darlene, who was a woman living in an isolated cabin with no running water in the middle of the woods of Blair County. And, they followed, the series ended up turning in what they called Visiting with Darlene, and they followed her up until around the late 1980s, coming back and checking in on the family. It was a fascinating documentary. The documentary started filming in 1970. So here we are in 2025, and as far as I know, there's only 3 living individuals left from this, and that's the family and production. P.J. O'Connell was killed when he was riding his bicycle in Arizona. Lisa Marshall, the co-producer, is still around. Her daughter actually reached out to me on TikTok. Most of Teresa's siblings have all passed away. Teresa's the oldest. She was the firstborn of Darlene. And she was actually born before they went into that house. And listening to the interview I just did with her, the audio podcast, it sounds like Tracy was also born before they went into the house, because Teresa remembers pushing her into the door. Teresa, when they started the documentary, was 6 years old. She wasn't in many of the episodes early on because she was mainly at school. But there's a couple episodes in there where they show them force feeding a girl who did not like that food at all. That was poor Teresa. She was such a sweet little girl in that documentary. But making contact with her recently and being able to hear her story was completely amazing and just fascinating. My eyes were huge over here listening to this while she was telling her story for that hour that we discussed it. Even in the documentary, you see that she actually separated herself from this whole situation when she was around 18 years old, started her own family with her son and a husband, and then talk to her now and find out that she went on to work in nursing at the actual veterans home where her father was placed then and passed away, and retired from there. And, she's still going strong. She is the oldest, the firstborn, and she outlived all of her siblings except for Bonnie. Bonnie is currently living in Texas as far as we know. It'd be great to hear her perspective on this too. So Bonnie, if you're listening, reach out to me. I'll put my email down here. Just send me an email. I'd love to hear what you have to say about this from your perspective. But obviously you got out of there early. Teresa told some stories where you attempted to run away early to get away from that situation yourself. And it sounds like you never went back. But next week, I'm going to be meeting Teresa in person. I can't wait for us to actually finally meet. And so this video is just, if you have any questions you want me to ask Teresa, put them in the comments down below. I'll make a list of everything you guys write down there. So any questions at all, put them in the comments here. I'll record all those. And then when I'm talking to her, in person, I'll discuss those with her. But I also want to see, I have a couple things planned, but just like the interview I did with her, the audio podcast, I don't want to do anything that she's not comfortable with. So this is completely up to how she wants to do this. We may get up there and she doesn't even want to talk about it anymore after, an hour long of letting all that out with me. I completely understand. But her story needs to be told. She did mention that she wants to write a book eventually. That would be amazing. I can't imagine being able to pick up a book and read her story, from her perspective, everything we saw in that documentary and her life afterwards. So I'm hoping somehow that happens. But in the meantime, we have my audio interview with her, and then the next week we're going to be meeting in person so we can talk. And for me, ideally, I'm hoping we can go to some of the places that were in the documentary. Maybe go back to the first house location, go back to the second house. She said she visits the first house every once in a while, just to reflect, visit the second house location. And I also like to see if she can determine where Tracy's house was. It's in a documentary. She wasn't talking to Tracy then, according to what she told me in her interview, but she thinks she knows the general area. I had several addresses listed for Tracy, and some of them kind of match up with the surroundings, but the house isn't there. So I have a feeling they might have torn down the house and there's something else there at this point. But we'll see what we can find. I'm hoping she's into going for a drive and doing a little bit of exploring into the locations of the Darlene Chronicles. But yeah, if you have any questions, put them down below in the comments, and I will bring them up to her next week when we meet.